Hi everybody, my name is Michael Bhakti and welcome to another TIG training. Today we explore the wonderful world of halo rings. Halo rings are very simple to make as long as you understand the basics that you need. So let's explore this. On a piece of paper I normally just roughly sketch out what I have in mind. Things you need to know is 1. Stone size, 2. Ring finger size, 3. Diamonds that will go around the outside. Those are the basics you need to know. Then I think about what do I actually have to make in ArtCam and where am I going to make these parts. So we've got the halo, which is the top. I can make in a blank vertical looking down. Then we've got the support that goes underneath that holds the halo from the bottom of the shank. And then last of all, but not least, we've got the shank itself, whether it's going to be split or whether it's going to be a solid shank or whether there are diamonds in the side, and whether the shank has a slight taper or not. And last but not least, whether the shank is flat or whether it is actually a curved surface. Right, so those are the basic steps we need to know. So the order that I'm going to make them is going to be the top first, start with the center stone. Then we're going to put the diamonds around the outside. We're going to add that to the assembly. Then we're going to make the side support, add that to the assembly. Then we'll make the shank, add that to the assembly. Add in our stones, and voila, the ring will be made. Alright, I'll see you guys in ArtCam. Alright, here we go. So first thing we do is go into a new project, and once inside a project we have to go into a model in order to create a relief, so we can add the relief to the assembly. So the first part is going to be the halo looking down from the top, and we're going to go to models, and this is looking straight down onto your finger. So we're going to select models, and we're going to call this top halo, and the ring finger size is going to be a 7. We don't care about the width, border or thickness. Resolution can be at 50, and then left click on accept. Alright, so let's see what we're going to do. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw our center stone. Okay. And then we are going to, whoops, didn't mean to do that. And then we are going to, so this is what we have to draw. We have to draw a circle that represents our center stone. And then we're going to offset this outwards. Okay, so we create this little edge here. And then we're going to draw a circle that will represent our gems. And then we're going to draw another line that will represent this outside edge. And then again once more a line that represents this edge. So we're going to need one circle for the gem, which we will offset both sides. That will create this little wall that we've seen here. Okay, we're going to create this wall. So we'll have one gem in the middle. We'll offset that both sides, which will be this wall. Then we're going to offset it once more to get a line where we could paste these stones all the way along, and then we're going to offset that line once more to get this outside edge, and then of course offset that line once more to get the final outside edge of that. Alright, so let's go and have a look at that. So we start off with our center stone, which happens to be 6.5, a carat stone. So enter 6.5, and if you right click with your mouse, it will shut down the tool and it will place the circle right in the middle. Now we're going to offset. So you're going to go over to the offset, and incidentally I'm keeping the assistant tab open for new users so that you'll know exactly what tools I'm using. Alright, so once again we're going to go over to the offset tool, this tool right there. We're going to select it, and we're going to offset it both sides in order so we make that inside edge. And we'll offset it 0.25, and we're going to select both sides. We'll leave it on sharp and we'll offset it. Alright, so that's the first inside edge. Then our stones are 1.5 thick, so make sure we've selected diameter, and it's 1.5, actually 1.45, but we're going to use, well, let's draw them the actual size so you can see. They're going to be 1.45 Okay, so that's where our stones, this is the size stones we think we can use. We'll only know if we can use them when we paste them all the way around. If they touch and overlap, then we might have to make them a bit smaller, or we'll have to use less stones. So what we want first of all is we need a little gap this side between this wall and the stone, and we need a little gap that side. Okay, since the stone is 1.45, let's say 1.5, we're going to offset this line, let's say 0.8, which is going to give us a little bit of a gap, and then 0.8 again, which will basically give us the other edge. So let's go. So we're going to select that outside. We're going to go back to the offset tool. Now I'm going to stop gain. Once you know where the offset tool is, I'm going to start using a keyboard shortcut, which is just O, offset. And we're going to go 0.8. It's going to be outwards. And we're going to press the offset. And there we go. Right, so we have to do it once more. We keep the value the same. We just hit offset once more. Alright, now we need one more, which will define the last edge that we're making, and that needs to be 0.5. Alright, the measurements I'm using here are just a guideline. You can make it thicker or thinner to suit the type of jewelry you make. Alright, so our drawing is almost done. So what I'm going to do now is, the only thing left is we're going to paste these stones along this rail. So to do that, we go to the fill tool section, and inside there we have paste along a curve. Open it up, and what we want to do is we want to select the stone, press down the shift key, select that rail, specify distance. Our stone is 1.5, so 1.6 is good in this area. Make sure this box checked and paste. Alright, and we can see that we've got one stone here at 9 o'clock and two stones at 3 o'clock. That won't work. So let's just go and ungroup those and right click, go down to properties, and you'll see there's a total of 17 stones, and that's a no-no when making halo rings. So let's close this tool down and delete it. And we're going to change this option this time to a number now. So 17 didn't work. We're going to try 16. And we're going to select the circle, shift, select the rail, and paste. There we go. Alright, so what we have to do now is we can start to actually make the shape. Before we do that, let's go over to the right hand side to the models. We're going to press on the plus sign, brings up this root system. We're going to press the plus sign on vectors, and on the front relief you're going to press that plus sign, and on the back relief you're going to press that plus sign as well. Alright, so our vectors are now drawn on the default layer, as you can see. So we are going to rename this by right clicking. We're going to rename this halo top. Okay, hit enter, and I'm going to rename this halo top as well. Halo top. Oops, halo top. Enter, and then rename the back halo top as well and press enter. So we have got 3 layers that are labeled the same, and let's have a look at what we're going to do right now. Alright, so let me show you what we are going to make now. So this is the top of the section we're going to make. We're going to make a raised area here, okay, and then we're going to build this wall up here, and we're going to build this wall up here. So this is a tapered edge, this is a tapered edge, so you'd be able to put a mill grain finish around this. So let's have a look how we do that. Alright, so we can go to the 3D view, looking straight down. Let's bring up the 0 plane. Let's get straight down looking at Z, and this icon here will turn on your vector lines. And let's hide the 0 plane once more. And now we are ready So let's start with the angles. So I'm going to select that line, shift, select that line, and to raise this up we are going to use the 3D blend tool right here in your relief tools. So 3D blend, open it up. We make sure it is on linear. And for those who are using it for the first time, who haven't used this, make sure you go and select this radial. Make sure this box is checked. We want to go from 0 to 0.7. Okay, enter 0.7. Make sure you're on add and create the blend. And if you look from the side, you can see we have our angle. Alright, so now we're going to select that line and that line. We don't need this tool incidentally, so we're going to shift, select those two lines, holding down the shift key. You're going to bring up the shape editor and you're going to select the peak. We're going to set an angle at 65. We're going to have limit to height, and the height is going to be 0.3. Okay, so it is a 65-degree angle, nothing in the start height, limit the height 0.3, and we are going to add that on. So that is on, and now we're going to do the same here using those two vectors. The values will be the same. So once again, it is a 65-degree angle, 0, limit the height 0.3, and add it as well. Alright, so that is the top almost done. So now we have to add the stones. Now when I say add the stones, we have to zero out the holes. But the first thing I want you to realize is that the surface is at an angle, and if you were to use the shape editor, the center of the hole would be down here, which means the center of the hole would be over here somewhere, and we can't have that. So let's look at how we punch holes at an angle. Alright, let's go back to the 2D view, and what we want to do is we're going to press the preview layer, which allows us to see what's going on. And because the surface is at an angle, we have to go and basically correct these vectors for your height. And when working flat, you've got this tool here, which is the wrap vector tool in your vector tool library. Okay, we're going to open it up, and it's going to be a radial. Okay, it's going to be the center from 0, 0, and we don't want to keep, so we make sure this is unchecked, we don't want to keep the originals. So now you need to make sure that these are ungrouped first. Ungroup them and then wrap them. So it's made them all at a slight angle. Now why it kept the originals, your guess is as good as mine. It should not have kept those, but anyway. Alright, so those I'm going to right click and group those all together, and you know what, I'm just going to move those out the way for now. Maybe there might have been a duplicate, that's what did that, but anyway, I don't know. So let's just select that and delete them anyway. Alright, so F9 will put those right back. Alright, so let me show you what would happen if you do use the shape editor at this point. If you just go and say subtract, you will see that the holes are not in the center. Can you see they're off? They're not really in the center. The hole is going straight down and it's coming through the bottom. So this point needs to be moved more over at an angle. You can see that it's coming straight down when it should have been at an angle. So I'm just going to undo that move, and let's look at it straight down from the top again. Let's see what we have to do here. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a little oval there. I'll bump it up a bit, sort of somewhere there. Okay, and I'm going to do a test first of all. So I'm just going to ungroup these. So I'm going to ungroup those vectors, select these two, go back to my blend tool, and let's set this at, make sure once again it's still linear, and change this value to 1, and we want to use subtract. So let's look at what that did now. So if you look at straight down, you can see the hole that was over here now is pulled square when looking down. So that's at this angle, you can see it's more square with the surface. Alright, so we know that works, so I'm going to undo that move. And once again, looking straight down from the top, what we have to do now is we've got to move this line so it basically goes through the center of our oval. So to do that, we're going to use the offset. So I'm going to close this tool out. O for offset. And rather than use a number, I'm just going to hold down the control key. I'm going to left click on the line and start dragging it down till it goes to the center, right about there. And that's good to go. Alright, so now I can take this oval and paste it along this line using the paste along a curve, this icon again, 16 times, paste. Alright, let's do a save. So we're going to do a hard save. This is a halo. So if it crashes now, we should be good to go. And now one at a time, I'm going to go around and do these one at a time. I only have to do between 9 and 3 because we'll be able to go and mirror our relief. So these need to be ungrouped first. So ungroup vectors and select those two. And do that, 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 that. Right, so that's done. Bring up the mirror tool. And I want to mirror, first of all, left over right. And then I want to mirror top over bottom. Alright, let's have a look at that quickly. Let's turn off our vector drawing. And that looks pretty good. So we're almost done with this. I just need to cut this hole out. So once again, looking straight down, turn our vectors back on again. I can select this inside line right there, bring up the shape editor F12. And I want to go no limit, and anywhere around about 70 is good. I'm just going to subtract it straight down. So let's have a look at that. So that is basically just punching out that center hole. Okay, so the top now is done. I'm going to now go to the back because I need to build on the bottom section here. And we do that right here in the back relief. So I select back relief. Then select the halo top layer. Make sure that's the layer we're working on since there's only one layer there anyway. And I select the outside, very outside, F12, and we are going to select an angle of, let's say, 58 degrees because we want it to be a really tight angle. 58 degrees. I'm going to limit the height to a depth. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. So we've got an angle, very steep angle, and the distance between here and here is 1.3. So it's going to start to build the angle. When it gets to 1.3, it's going to flatten itself off. So 1.3 goes into this height there, into this box. Okay. And to go down, we subtract. And there is the underside. So when we look at this is the back layer. So when I look at both the front and the back layer now, turn on both layers, I can now see, turn our vectors off. I can now see what it looks like. Alright, So it's kind of heavy from the back, so I'm going to punch out a larger hole here at the back, and I'm going to taper it so it goes off at this angle. So to do that, I'm still working on the back relief in case you've gone and selected the front relief. I'm looking straight down from the top again. I'm just going to select the, depends how much of a line you want. Let's select this one here. Okay. I'm going to bring up the shape editor, and I'm just going to 50 degrees. I'm just going to add it into there. So let's see what happened there. Turn off our lines again, and you can see now I've removed a lot of weight from underneath. Now, if you don't want it to be this thin, do not go and select that line. Select one of these lines here, and you'll have a little bit more beef left underneath the actual piece here. So I'm happy with that as it is. Okay, because weight is an issue. And other than add on the prongs, we are almost done with the top. So let's do another hard save, and let's add on the prongs. But first of all, we have to add this to the assembly because the top is now done and we have not added it to the assembly yet. So to do that, we're going to go down and select the mesh tool, and we want to close it with a back relief. We press left click on create, and there's the mesh. We need to call this halo top, and I'm going to add it to our project. So how do we know it's been added to the project? I go to the assembly tool, I press the plus sign, and there I can see the halo top is now added. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is we want to go to assembly. We want to right click on we want to highlight assembly, and we're going to go to the lamp, and from now on whatever we have in the assembly is going to be colored blue wax. So when I see blue wax from now on, I know I'm looking at the assembly and not at my relief. And the reason why I'm seeing both now tells me the halo is blue, it's the assembly. If I turn it off, you will see I'm seeing this by itself. Alright, so what we need is a prong that runs around here now. I can't add the prongs on here because they need to be tangent with the surface. So let's go and make a single prong. So we do that by going into the models again, and I'm just going to go into a 3-axis blank, and since a prong is really small, I'm going to make this 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter by 100 pixels, and this we're going to call prong, and hit the accept icon. Alright, so this model that we had there, when I opened it up, I forgot to call it halo top. I'm just going to rename that quickly halo top so I know where we made the halo top. Alright, let's go and select the circle tool to make the prong. Our prong is going to be 0.5. Right click, that creates the prong. Bring up our shape editor, and let's go up 0.3, add. So that's our prong going up. And now I want the prong to be a little bit rounded at the bottom so it sinks down into the surface. So go to the back plus sign, select the bottom layer, and bring up the shape editor, put no height in it this time here, make this 0, and just subtract that down. So our prong now, if I hide the assembly view away, you can see that is the back and then the front, and now I have a full prong. Okay, so we're going to make a mesh out of that. Create a triangled mesh. Once again, it's this tool right there, and close with a back relief is what we want, and press create. So there's our one prong, and remember to add it to the project. So now's the time to do a hard save. Alright, so now we can go File, Close Model, and we'll do a hard save. So we'll do a save, and look at what we got. So we've got the halo top and we've got the prong. Alright, so let me show you here now how to attach this onto the surface first of all. So we're going to go into the halo top, and we're going to go back to opening up our relief. So we're going to press this plus sign and select this layer. Then we're going to go back to the 3D view, and we can now see, let's turn off the halo top by turning off this light bulb. And now I'm going to attach this prong. So I'm selecting the prong. In fact, I'm going to make a copy of this prong. So I'm holding down the shift key and take this prong and copy it on assembly. So I've got two. So then I'm going to lay on surface, grab that prong and just lay it on the surface, grab that prong and lay that on the surface as well. Okay, so they look pretty good where they are. Okay, and let's do a save one more time before we do something else. Alright, so I'm going to close this model down now, File, Close Model. That was just so I could attach those super fast to the halo top. Okay, and now look at these prongs. If I think they're a bit high, I can sink them down a bit. So to sink them both at the same time, I'm going to right click. I'm going to cut that prong, and I'm going to select this prong there, and I'm going to right click and paste it. Then this folder now is empty, so I can right click and delete it. Alright, so that prong now I can move it down a bit in blue. Let's go 0.1 straight down. Let's lower them down a bit. Let's look. They're still okay. Let's go down a little bit more. That might be a bit too low. Let's just see. Alright, so I'll leave that up to you. You can decide how high they should be above the surface or not. I prefer them a bit higher because it's easier to actually set them if they are higher. Alright, so there are 16 of these prongs. So we're going to select the prongs. We're going to go to block, copy and rotate. So pressing the home key gets you to the block, copy and rotate tool. And it's always around the blue. A total 360 and 16 prongs. And nestle them inside a new assembly. So all those prongs are now inside a new assembly right here. And once again, we can do a hard save. Alright, so the top is almost done. Our prongs are in place. So what we have to do now is, well, you can add in a gem, do exactly the same thing, add in a gem, and you could move it around 16 times as well. So let's go and have a look at how we do the your under support, which is this support right here. Now we're going to add in this little support that's coming down here. So let's look at how we do that. Alright, now it's time for us to put the support that's going to support it. So let me show you what the support looks like. Alright, so this is the little support we're going to be making right there, this little part here that holds the top. So let me show you how to do that. Alright, so we have lots of places we can do that. I'm just going to go to the 3 axis blank. The size is really not important. We're just going to call this support. The numbers don't matter. We're going to accept that. Alright, now the first thing to do is to find out where our piece was made. And since we made it right here, let's go to assembly, highlight assembly. We're going to highlight this icon and it draws it right there. So our part needs to sit right above this area here. We want it to be about 2 millimeters, 2.5 millimeters off the finger. So let's go and draw a circle. Let's make that 2.5. And I think our distance here was 2.5 anyway. If not, if yours wasn't, now you know where 2.5 is, and this has to go from there up to basically there, maybe a tad higher. So I'm going to measure from any point to any point here. So I'm going to go to the measure tool, and selecting it, I'm going to click on this surface and click on the top surface, and I can see it's going to move up 12.5. So excuse me, go to assembly. Okay, let's watch it so you can see what's happening. So there it is at the moment on the zero plane. Go to assembly, nudge 12.5, 12.5, and world center takes us straight up. So the part now is moved up. Let's confirm that. Assembly again, press the home button and bring up the assembly silhouette, and we can see it's right where it's meant to be. So that's good. Alright, so now we're going to draw 2 lines. This is going to be a 2 rail sweep. So we want to go right on this line here. And what I'm doing is I'm just matching this line as it goes down there now. So I'm going to zoom in, make sure you go beyond the ring finger hole, and I just get them both to meet up with that about there. And then of course I'm going to mirror that across the model. The next thing we need is a cross section. Since it's round, any circle will do. Go to node editing and pressing R while the mouse is on that line will remove that spam and that spam. We are ready to do a 2 rail sweep right here. So the 2 rail sweep incidentally is this icon, which is available inside the assistant tab right there. So we need those two, the cross section in that order, 2 rails, cross section. Let's bring it up. And the thing to watch for when you're doing a 2 rail sweep is to make sure both rails are pointing in the right direction. If they are not, you can use the first rail that's pointing the wrong way, or you can use the second rail that's pointing the wrong way. Just make sure both arrows are moving in the same direction and calculate. And that should give you your shape right where it is. And now we want to do the exact shape on the back relief. So this has just been created on this layer here. I'm going to press the plus sign on this layer. Make sure this layer is bold out now. Bring up the 2 rail sweep again and calculate on the back as well. Alright, so if we go to the 3D view, let's turn off our blue assembly. If I'm looking at the assembly, if I look at the back and the front at the same time, this shape should vanish because the value of the 2 will cancel them out. Alright, so staying on the back relief, I'm going to draw a box that creeps through both of these. So I want it to be roughly 1.3 created. Now you want this box slightly higher than the actual piece. I want it to merge into this slightly. Okay, so that's going to be the height of our box. It is 1.3 wide. If you want to taper it, this would be a good time to taper it. I'm just going to line it up, make sure it's lined up with that line there. So if you're going to taper it, you could put a slight taper, but for here now, I'm not going to taper it. Also, if you want to save time, if you grab those nodes and you move them up, you want them to be just above the ring finger hole. Then you don't have to come back and crop it afterwards. So make sure it's above the ring finger hole as I have here, but it must be above this line here. Alright, so we're going to bring up the shape editor now, and we're going to give it an angle of about 85 would be good. And so the angle is 85. We're going to limit the height, and in the height box again, we're going to enter the thickness we want this to be is 0.9. So watch what happens with the two cancelling themselves out because the numbers are the same. The moment we minus this into the back, the value of the mass on the back will change, and whatever the difference is will show up. So let's go and subtract that. Alright, there we go. So there is our support. So we're going to make a mesh out of our support. Close with the back relief. Create triangles. And support, we are going to add it to the project. Alright, we are done here now. We always do a hard save. Excuse me. And we can file, close model. Let's look at our assembly and let's make sure we don't have any gaps. Everything fits nicely. Now the reason why we made it slightly higher was because we put an angle on this, and I wanted to make sure it's nicely sunken into this wall, as you can see there. Alright, let's look at it from this view here. Let's make sure that it's intact. Okay, let's look at that right there. Connection is fine. Alright, everything looks good. So we can mirror the support to the opposite side. So support, mirror to the opposite side is this icon right there. Make sure that's radial is checked. And now both of these can go inside one file. So I'm going to right click and cut that. That is part of the halo top, and I'm going to paste it into the halo top. Delete that support and then do the same for this. Just cut that and paste it into the top and delete that support. Now you don't have to do that. You can leave them in the folders if they are. But if you don't do that, these get so long eventually that you have to scroll down. This is just keeping everything neat and orderly. Alright, all we have to do now is add on our shank, which won't take long. So to add on the shank, we're going to go back to models. And since I feel lazy today, we are going to use the created tapered shank, because then a couple of vectors I don't have to draw myself. We're just going to label this shank size 7, and let's give a border of, let's say 2 will be more than enough. 50 is good. And move along to the next. The thickness, well, here we don't worry about this because these lines we're going to redraw. The bottom I do want 1.6 at least. The top of our shank actually is 3. Let's make it 3.2, and the bottom can be 2.5 can be the bottom. Alright, and let's move on to the next arrow. Alright, these couple of vectors we don't have to draw ourselves. There we go there. Alright, so we won't need that because we're going to sweep this ourselves. We're just going to need that one little vector. Let's go and have a look. As you can see, that does not resemble our shank at all, but that's okay. We just have to draw less lines now. So first thing we want to do is let's look at what is going on right here. Actually, you can close this tool out. I'm just going to accept this because I'm going to manually sweep them ourselves. It's just a couple of lines we don't have to worry about. Alright, so let's see where the assembly now sits. So I'm scrolling out, hitting assembly again. Let's go to the vector assembly silhouette tool. That's going to draw it in, show me where everything is. And now I know that this line now needs to meet up with here. Let's have a look at that. So you can see here our shank flows into this area here. So what we're going to draw now is we're going to draw this basic shape. You want this nice sweep, and then we're going to remove this material here. So let's have a look at that. So to do that, we're going to go to node editing, pressing in on the keyboard. I'm going to insert a point, pressing I, going to snap that into place there. Now this is all visual. This is up to you. You can decide where and how your sweeps go. I do this by sight. I just look at these and I decide exactly when I like this sweep. Okay, I look at that nice curve, a nice easy curve. Take that a little bit up, a little bit more up, like that. Alright, this needs to be a straight line now. So pressing my mouse on this line. The mouse must be on that line. I press L for line, I for insert a point, and now I can drag this straight down. So the side view is done. I also want my shank. I want my shank to be straight. So let's go and node editing, remove. Now, if you don't want lines on the side of your shank, then you've got to put a slight taper on, actually. Let's undo that move so I can just show you again. Let's just undo those. Undo it once more. Let's bring up this cross section and show you what's going on here. So, because it tapers, if you don't have an angle on your cross vector, you'll get lines down the side of your shank. This helps to remove those lines. You can also smooth your model out afterwards. So let's grab those two, this cross section and this one here. And then scroll down to your ring tools, right down to the bottom list. This is the icon you want to do. Now I've created this icon up here. So rather than scroll down there and find that, I'm just going to use the same icon here. I'm just going to do a sweep. And let's go and see what this looks like. And that joins pretty well. And because I've got that angle, you can see this wall is smooth here. But that will cause a problem when we come to put the bottom section in here. Okay, we won't worry about that now. Alright, so now we have to cut away this under section here. Alright, so let's go and slice that away. So to do that, I'm going to take this vector, I'm going to go to the offset tool. We want it to be at least 1.5, let's say 1.4, 1.5 should be good. Want to go inwards, and we'll leave it sharp. So make sure you're inwards and sharp. Alright, and now I'm just going to drag this node all the way up. Let's go a little bit of a sweep, turn this into a bezier so I can follow that. Oops, ever so slightly. Okay, that's good. Now, the sweep only has to come to about here, basically, because we're going to have a rail inside here. So this line here, I'm just going to tweak this in here. Alright, and you'll see why. This will show a gap around our piece. So this just needs to be slightly smaller, or you can just zero out the back. Alright, so now we're ready to do a sweep. I'm only interested in this little area here. Alright, so in order to create a boolean that's going to remove material, that has to be done on the back relief, as you know. So we're going to go to the back relief. We're going to press this icon and make sure we've selected this layer so it's grayed out. And we're going to do a 2-rail sweep in the back as well. So I'm taking this line, I'm going to copy and paste it, Control C, Control V, holding down my Control and Alt icon. I just want it to go straight up, and then I'm going to paste it again, and you can use the arrow keys on the keyboard just to move it down. Alright, so you can use the arrows to move it up and the arrows to move it down if the Alt does not work on your keyboard. So, selecting both these rails now, select both the outside rails, make sure I'm on the back. I'm selecting this, and I'm going to do a sweep right here. So I'm going to do this sweep right there on the back, across the full length, and because this is inside the 0 plane, it cropped it right there. So let's look at that. So there we go there, that looks pretty good. Okay, and now I'm going to go and go to the front, make sure we've highlighted the front, and I'm going to go and remove this entire section there. So F12 0. Right, the reason why I do that is I want to remove this opening somewhere else, because if I try and remove this here, it's not going to cut this angle back right. Sorry, I take that back. Let me show you how to do that. So first of all, we've got stones that sit inside here. Okay, so our stones are roughly 1.5 as well. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 stones. You can have as many or as little as you want. So I'm going to highlight this first of all, and we are going to correct vectors for height. So tell it to read the surface itself. So it's gone and corrected them for height. So I'm just going to respace them. Respace those. Alright, and now I can draw. Actually, I can use this line. So I'm going to copy and paste that line, because that will keep the exact angle that I have here. So I'm just going to bring this line down, and you can see the stone should have tapered as well. So you would want to make these stones a little bit smaller. Alright, so I'm going to cut this right there. So I'm going to cut and delete that line, and I'm going to come here and cut that and delete that line. Alright, so I'm going to mirror this using the mirror function. It's going to be over the model, and I'm going to close them off. So right click, join vectors with a line, and then close vectors with a line. Alright, so I'm going to offset this inwards. Let's go 0.3 inwards. Yeah, it'll be fine. Alright, now I'm going to actually extend this a little bit this way. Okay, because I want to show you what happens to this wall. I want this wall to be as vertical as I can. So I'm going to select all of this, move it a bit closer to this edge. I'm looking at this edge as we go around here now. Alright, so let's look at that. Selecting this line, shift, selecting this line now. Going back to my 3D view, I'm going to bring up the blend tool again. And I'm going to go straight down 0.4 linear from the first surface to the second surface, subtract it, create a blend. And you can see now it's cut that wall straighter. So that was a bit too far. I'm going to undo that and just move those lines a little bit more to my left. Whoops. Okay, that's good. Grab the circles only and move those. Those circles will move also a little bit to my left. Bring them a little bit back. So if you want this line even straighter, just move it more into there. Alright, so let's go and cut that again. So we select the 2, subtract it, and now you can see this wall normally, if I used a shape editor, would have come straight down here like this, and there would have been a horrible angle here. So you can see I'm going to even go back and try and move that line a little bit more right underneath this one. Let's go right back so it meets this line. Alright, let's try that last time. And let's see what happens with that. Alright, so that is that's basically exactly where it needs to go. So now we can select our circles. Okay, let's do a hard save. And we're going to bring up our shape editor, and we're just going to subtract them straight down into the shank. Alright, so that is bad news. So I'm going to go back and undo that move again. So you can see that this circle is not really behaving the way it's meant to be. So we have to go and just distort this even more. Distort that one even more. So these now spacing will have to move again. So that spacing is going to go more over there. That can move along. That can move along. And that can move along. So let's look at those and see how that does. And that looks much nicer. You can see now it's much more rounded. Alright, this last one should have moved, so all those could move a fraction more over. So let's do this once more. We'll move all of those right up almost to that end. And do the same thing again. Subtract that again. Alright, so you're getting the gist of what I'm doing. Let's turn these lines off. So it's a trial and error, and you keep playing with it until you get it exactly right where it's meant to be. Alright, so we just need to add on a few prongs there, and we're going to be good. Alright, so the next step now is to basically, let's hide that away, is to add on our prongs now. And since we don't have a copy of a single prong by itself, we've got those 2 little prongs we can still use. Alright, so we can use those prongs right there. So I'm going to add those prongs onto the surface now. So select those prongs, attach to surface, grab that prong, put that in its spot there. So we've got one there, grab that one, 2 there. Okay, and we need to copy it once, twice, 3 times. So I'm going to copy it once, twice, 3 times. Alright, so we grab that one, put it down there, grab that one, put it there, and grab the last one and put it right there. Alright, so those are in line now. They look good. Let's do a hard save. And now that we've got those, we can call those, rename those in front, shank prongs. Okay, let's make an STL of the shank. So you're going to go to the triangle mesh, close with a back relief, because we made a back relief to empty out that, create, and let's call it shank half. We're going to add that to our project. Okay, let's do another hard save. Alright, so we are not done inside here. We're going to make the underside of this now. So let's go and turn off this front relief. Let's color that shank. Yeah, it is in blue. Okay, so let's make a new layer here now. So this layer here we're going to rename shank top, meaning this is the top section. Enter. And now we're going to make a new layer right here, and we're going to rename that shank bottom, and enter. Alright, so still inside the ring folder we now have a shank bottom and a shank top. I'm going to turn this light bulb off, select this layer, so we're working on a single layer by itself. There's nothing in view, there's no relief in view. We've just got the assembly in view, and we are going to add in this section now. So let's go ahead and look at how to add in that. So selecting these two lines now. Okay, I'm going to, first of all we need to offset this vector outwards, sorry. So offset, we want that to be outwards. Make sure you select outwards, and it is 1 outwards, and offset it. There it is there. Alright, so I'm just going to extrude this, hold down the shift key, this, and this is the part that's going to give us an issue now, is this angle is not going to match our other angle. But let's see what we can do to fix that. And we do our sweep now. So I'm turning off the back relief because it's still eating it through. So I'm turning off the back relief. And now I can see how this joins our ring. Can you see it's a little bit smaller? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first of all just try and tweak the vector to see if that works. If not, we're just going to scale it. So I'm going to move this over there, make a copy of it. And I'm going to my node editing. I'm see if I can change this angle slightly to see if it makes a better join. And do the sweep now using that vector. 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember to reset your relief first using this icon. Reset your relief and then click the sweep tool. Alright, let's see if that looks like it's a slightly better join. Alright, so that is the underside, and now we don't need the whole shank, we just need from there onwards. And now we can add in this shape. So there are two ways of adding this shape. Depends whether you want to put a tape on it or not, but let's have a look at what the ring is we're trying to achieve. And this is basically a straight wall. Alright, so it just is basically a straight circle. So let's go and have a look at that. So this section here is the section we need to keep. So F9 puts it into the center, and I'm going to 0 rest, means whatever's in there will remain, and 0 is going to get rid of those two ends. So 0 rest. And let's look at where that was cropped. So that I could have cropped a little bit more, but that's good. And now we're going to add in our circle underneath. So let's go and draw the circle first of all. Okay. So my circle is basically 5.5, and now I'm going to correct vector for height, and the height is 1, and accept it. Bring up the shape editor, 1, and merge height. So let's look at that. Alright, so the circle needs to be larger. That didn't really work, so let's go back to our view, and I can just offset this. So I'm just going to offset this. Let's say, see how much smaller it was. It's almost the thickness of this, so let's go 0.7, 0.7 outwards, and let's do 1 millimeter merge high, and let's see what that looks like. Much better. Okay, and now we can punch a hole into our top as well. So we're going to take this circle and we're going to offset it 1 millimeter inwards, and we are going to zero out that shape. Okay, to make sure everything's nice and even, let's do a hard save, and then we're going to copy left over right. It should be, we should be no need to do this, but just left over right, top over bottom. That's pretty good. Alright, so now we're going to add this by itself. So we make a mesh of this, and it's closed with the back relief. No, we did not make, we don't want to close it. The back will eat this away. So we want to close with a flat plane, create, and this is the shank under, I guess we can call it, and add to project. Alright, other than adding these prongs to this side here, which we can do, which is kind of easy, we should be almost done. We've got to add 4 little prongs onto here, which I'll show you how to do that right now, but we're almost done. So file, close model, update, yes. Okay, there we go. That join we could have smoothed out a bit bigger. We could actually scale that a tad wider, but alright, so these prongs here, which are, oops, where are those prongs sitting? Those are shank prongs sitting right there. We are going to mirror them to the opposite side. First of all, make sure that you've got them on copy and make sure it's opposite. And then of course you're going to cut that and paste it inside there. Alright, so these shank prongs go with the shank. So these two need to be inside the same folder, but before we do that, I want to mirror this shank to the opposite side. So these prongs belong inside this folder now. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to cut that away and paste it into, not the underside, paste it into this half of the shank right there. So I'm going to right click and paste them into there. And this I'm going to mirror to left and right. Okay, and now we're going to expose the under. Okay, and once again, this is going to be cut and get pasted into there. And then of course the under is part of the shank as well, so I'm just going to cut that and paste that inside there, and now we do no longer need that folder. Alright, so there is the shank, as you can see. So this now we don't have to call it shank half anymore. I'm just going to rename it shank. And there is the shank. Okay, and there is the top. Let's turn on our prongs. Our prongs are part of the top actually, so these prongs I'm going to cut and paste them into the top. Alright, so we need 4 prongs in here that we can get straight out of the libraries if you've got a library. So we can go to primitives, and inside there we have a prong. Let's use a what should we use? You know what, let's go and make a prong. We might as well make one. So making the prong will finish it out, so let's go and do that. So the best place to do a prong is on the side like we did before. So we already have a side open. Alright, sorry about that long pause. I had to look at, we had 2 folders both called shank. So I'm just opening up one to see what they are. They shouldn't be named the both. So this is actually shank and shank. So this was shank, but this one here is in fact wrong. So let's go back and look at what this one is. And this one was the side support. So this one should be renamed support. Alright, so now that we've got our files back where we're meant to be, this is where we can draw the prong right here. So this I'm going to just rename support. Put on a new layer, and we're going to call this layer prong. Okay, so we know our prong needs to be right here. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to the thickness of our prong needs to be, to hold that stone, let's say 1.2 by 1.6. Let's do this again. So we need a prong diameter 1.2. Oh, it kind of looks fat, that prong, for such a small area. Let's see what that looks like. We can scale it smaller afterwards. So we go to node editing, make that into an arc, and I'm going to rotate it at a slight angle, and I'm going to taper it. So close, and we're going to taper it, bring that in a bit. Alright, so F12, we're going to add that on, so there's the prong, and we're going to close it with an inverted front. So we're going to close it with an inverted front, and we're going to call it CENT, center prong, and add to project, so it adds it right there. Okay, so we can save this file, do a hard save, and we are practically done. File, close model. Okay, so the prong looks a bit short. That's no problem. We're going to scale it. So 2.2, 2.5, apply. Let's bring it straight down. Let's go to nudge, bring it down. Let's go 0.2. straight down into there, and then we're going to rotate it. So block, copy and rotate, total of 4 around the Z, 360, put inside a new folder, and then we're going to copy those, rotate those 4 is 45. We'll put them right back to where they are again, so 22.5 around there. I guess it was a 45. Alright, so there we go. So let's have a look at that. So there is our ring. Hello. Everything's in place, everything looks good. And there we go. So that's how we make a halo style band. Last thing to do is to cut that from there and paste it into the top, because those prongs are part of the top. And we're done. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learned a lot. I certainly did. Alright, have a good day.